Chandrayaan took 40 days nearly, having been launched on the 23rd of July and reached there on the 14th of, the 14th of July and reaching there on the 23rd of August. So I was wondering whether it will take him 40 hours at least to cover the 40 days. But since all of us are constrained of time, so I'm sorry having prompted him to cut it short. Most of us belonging to the scientific fraternity are familiar with many of the visuals, and by now also even most of the television anchors have become educated about all this space technology, having talking about it for the last 3 months. So having said that, I think without being repetitive, some of the observations other than this, why is Chandrayaan significant? So there have been a number of questions raised actually. What is it going to be of utility to the common man? It gives us a certain amount of romanticism. We start clapping, oh, we've reached the moon, surface of moon, we landed on the surface of moon, and then, it does give us some amount of esteem as a citizen and more so as a scientific fraternity person. But on the whole, I think one thing is important to understand is, and the inference that we draw, because as scientific workers and researchers, we've been taught to, whenever we engage ourselves into research, to first define the objectives and then the results. And in the beginning, sometimes the abstract, if you have any. So I think one of the important inferences drawn from this mission is that India always had the potential. We never lagged in talent, we never lagged in acumen, we never lagged in capacity, we never lagged in the capacity to put in hard work. We had dreams in our eyes. If you go back to the archives, you'll see the pictures of Sarabhai carrying the launcher on the carriage of his bicycle. And we started off late, somewhere in late 1960s, when the then Soviet Union and the United States were already on this verge of landing a human being on the surface of the moon, which US did, in fact, in 1969. And therefore the inference is that we had everything, but we were possibly waiting for an enabling milieu to happen. And that enabling milieu had to come from the level of the policymakers, from the level of the political leadership, and that happened after Prime Minister Modi came in. Notwithstanding all the background that Narayanan said, this of course was there, but what was not there was that the gates of Sriharikota were locked. And that unlocking has happened only 3 years back in 2020. And if you are today taking pride in Chandrayaan having landed on the surface of the moon, it's because you have become stakeholders. It's become a whole of government, whole of nation mission. Earlier on, for almost 60 years, we were working behind a veil of secrecy. You didn't know. Occasionally you saw a remote corner newspaper column news that there had happened a launching. Nobody could figure out where actually Sriharikota was. Today you have thousands and thousands of people thronging that small island just to visit that place. And on the day the Chandrayaan was launched, we had not less than 1,000 media persons watching there on the spot with their naked eye. And immediately after the launching, one of them said, there is some criticism that this is nothing new, so too much of bonhomie being created. I said, when did you last visit this place? This is my first time. I said, this is new. Because you were forbidden even from peeping inside the gates because you would be prosecuted. And we were doing it without actually realizing that we were actually constraining ourselves, restraining ourselves in self-imposed barriers, without realizing that the growth could not have happened otherwise unless we involved all the stakeholders, including the industry. And even the premier institution like NASA is heavily funded by the non-government agencies, more than the government. And the result is that within 3 or 4 years, we have 150 space startups at ISRO, the private startups. The number was just 4 before the new policy came in and we threw it open. And many of them have turned entrepreneurs. The first one, the Skyroot, the other people, they started their own entrepreneur outlets. So when he referred to water molecules, the importance of that is, as I was telling some of the friends came from, we were there 3 months back in US. I said Neil Armstrong was the first person to have landed on the surface of the moon. He had a stall. BBC captured it because that was the only broadcasting medium available in those days. And he made a very famous statement which went down in this. He said, this small step for man, giant step for mankind. I said he went around but could see the presence of water. It was Chandrayaan later which went and captured the evidence of the water molecules over there. So you could imagine the kind of capacity, the capability that was there in store within India, waiting to happen. And the difference now is, because when we celebrate the scientific feat, the difference now is that it has been enabled to happen. Otherwise, we had reconciled that we will be functioning like this for all times to come. We had even stopped making a demand for that. And yes, when they say, why spend so much? We have spent just about 600 crore. While the simultaneous lunar mission, which did not succeed, had 16,000 crore. So that is again another inference. We have mastered the art and given the world the option of cost-effective space missions and cost-effective scientific projects. So wherever we were devoid of financial resources, we were trying to make up through our cerebral resources. When we moved out, we went around the Earth nearly 20 times. And then the most sensitive movement was when you move out of the Earth orbit and then you have to catch the lunar orbit, because if you don't, then you get stuck. It's like suddenly changing the track when you're driving a car and moving on to the other track. If you don't do it in time, you can meet a mishap midway. And when we went to the moon's orbit, we took 40 circles. I was giving the example of just like driving a car. When a middle-class family purchases a car and they don't have enough to pay for the fuel, at least in my generation they did that. They would make the best use of a sliding door to switch over to the neutral gear. So we have mastered the art of making a virtue out of being neutral. And that is why it is such cost effective. So we have given actually a world a different kind of a model. And yes, it has raised the esteem of a common citizen, because it's given the confidence to the common citizen that, look, we have the capacity to do. When we began, as I said, they were already on the verge of landing on the surface of the moon and we were singing Nursery Rhyme Chanda Mama Dur Ke. Today they are waiting for our inferences, because South Pole is a virgin area they had never ventured into. So the evidence of all these mineral elements, sulfur, etc., cobalt, this would be awaited by the entire world. And there is also evidence of the presence of, when it is H2, it is also hydrogen. And hydrogen, it means a lot, which the scientific community knows now, and it's going to mean much more in the years to come. So we are now no longer taking lead from others. We are in a position to give lead to the rest of the countries. So India is now ready to lead. The world is ready to be led. Now it's up to us, how much capacity do we have to lead? And that is why it is giving esteem to each and every citizen. As far as the cost is concerned, I told you, there is hardly a cost going by the kind of, I am also currently engaged in the Swachhata program. I was telling just yesterday, we earned 600 crore by just disposing of electronic scrap. Tute hue mobile, tute hue computer. That is exactly the cost of the Chandrayaan. So if you, all gentlemen over here, particularly gentle ladies, gather the discarded mobile phones of your children at home, where the son comes home with a new mobile and just throws it away, and take it to one of the places called somewhere Nehru Place or somewhere. They'll assemble it and pay you for it. If you collect that money, you can afford one Chandrayaan. It's just made out to be. So that is one. It has given us esteem. The second is, how does it help the common man? That is the other thing. What is missed out is, because in the romanticism of, seeing the flying objects, we miss out. It is in this last 7-8 years that we have shown the world how space technology and even other scientific applications could be used for sectoral development. So it's no longer confined to setting up of rockets. There's smart cities, roads, buildings, laying down of rail tracks, unmanned tracks. When we had a series of accidents about 3 years back, I just by instinct walked into the rail bhavan and I said, do you know we have a technology, why don't we make use of it? The space technology can help you detect a potential obstructing object about 15 kilometers away and give enough time to the driver to apply the brakes. And now we are deeply into it. Telemedicine, of course, you know, agriculture. Swamitva program, one of the most ambitious programs in the government of India, which enables you to do the mapping of your farm, your land. You don't have to do the rounds of the revenue office. So space technology today has virtually entered every Indian household. And since we are a heterogeneous country with a heterogeneous set of problems, unlike many other countries which are very homogeneous, which are not beset with such problems, because that is also an advantage because we have a huge research material. The other day, there was a medical team and they said they wanted to invest in some kind of a research. I said, what are the diseases you are interested in? He said, no, you test this. I said, you name the disease and I have it in India. We have all the so-called tropical diseases which we thought we had left behind. Again, they have got revived. Margo is there. And now, of course, we are also very much into the metabolic disorders, which were at one time, when we were undergraduate students, known to be the disease of the West or the disease of the civilized world. So we are now civilized enough to have those diseases as well. So what I'm trying to say is that we have shown the world, and this is something which is not known to them, how to create cost-effective missions, how to use the natural gravitational forces as a compensation for your resources, how to use space technology for your household, for the ease of living the life of a citizen, for development in the infrastructure projects. It's only and only happening in India. So this is, I think, what is the advantage. And personally to me, of the multiple departments that I hold, space is always written in the end. But in G20, whenever they introduced, they said Minister for Space, as if I had come down from the space. So this kind of esteem which has generated and the kind of most of our, do you know, Trivandrum, where Narayana comes from, has one of the world-class training institute. The selection is done through IIT JEE, the same form. You just have to tick mark. Most of the people in North India are not aware of it because boys and girls don't feel interested in that because they don't find any avenues there. We have about a batch of about 160, 100% placement. Almost 60% of them are immediately lapped up by NASA. Why? Because we didn't have any opportunities to offer them. Suddenly, now when the Aditya was launched, we had 10,000 spectators there, boys and girls of schools and colleges beginning from Punjab up to Kerala. So how does it help the common society? It has opened up new avenues of livelihood. It has opened up new avenues of startups. It has opened up new avenues of vocation, which we had tied down. And now with the coming in of the National Research Foundation, which we have named Anusandhan, where we will have about 70–80% of funding from the non-government sources, I'm sure we are going to be, because if we have to grow from where we are today, we have to remember two things. A, our parameters have to be global. Our challenges have to be global. Our standards have to be global. There was a time when the Western world thought that we didn't know what is climate change. We couldn't speak of the clean energy. They thought this is beyond our head. Today we are laying down the targets. Net zero 2070. We are telling them. We are telling them tomorrow we are going to be one of the major exporters of hydrogen. So we have actually proved to the world that we can meet you on your platform. So if you have to tell Australia or England that you are good at sports, you can't tell them that you come and play kabaddi with me. You do that. Nobody stops. But you have to also beat them in cricket. So that is what you are doing. So this is something that we need to, because as I used to say in most of the camps that we had in diabetes, I said diabetes too serious to be left to a diabetologist alone. And the space technology too serious to be left to a space scientist alone. Unless we understand and make our boys and girls understand the huge, enormous collateral positives coming out of this. And that is, now suddenly it has become, space technology has become popular all across we are receiving so many requests from education institutions. They want to have their department. They want to have collaboration with ISRO. And therefore, And I think there's much to learn also from the culture that these guys there follow. They have a one important thing in ISRO is that they never superannuate. Even after retirement, they remain associated with the mission, so they take it up as a life mission. You must have seen in the photographs which were shown, all the former chairmen were there, Kiran Kumar and others. And before and after every launch, they go to Tirupati, and then they dispose you off with a laddu only. So there's such a serious work culture, which I think also is something we should be emulated. But now it is, since we have opened up, others will have an opportunity to learn what all good things we had to share with them. So I can go on and on the whole day, but I won't do that. Leave some time for the interactive conversation. Thank you.